Hey everybody, it's Rothbard's Disciple here. I'm bringing you guys a short video to talk about a common sort of misconception that I see a lot of people talking about. I'm not trying to call this guy out. We actually had a good conversation here on through these comments here, but it's this comment here in particular that I want to be talking about. A lot of people, when they see you're putting hashes on the blockchain, they're like, yeah, well, a hash is cool, but it's a one-way function, so you can't retrieve the data. You can only validate the integrity of it, okay? Um, the point here that matters is when you are hashing data onto the blockchain, um, when you want to use it for a HiveMind DAC. In almost every case, there's a couple unique cases where this isn't true. The Twitter example is actually one of them. Although with tweets, tweets take up a very small amount of storage space, so this doesn't really matter. But in almost every case, when you're doing a HiveMind DAC, the whole point is that you're trying to create something that has value. And so when you're creating something that has value, you always keep all of the you keep all the files, okay? So like if I want to do something like this, like all these things are it's just little bits and pieces of information, stuff that I want to put into like merchandise and books or whatever it is, like again, I sort of followed the George Lucas example of you create a story and you create a lot of merchandise to go with it. And you create a huge backstory for it so that there's all this information that you can put into books and whatnot and be made into different toys like different spaceships, things like that. There's a lot of information here, but the thing is that if I hash this and I put it on the blockchain, like I'm not going to delete it on my home computer. So when people say, well, if you put it on the blockchain and it's a one-way hash function on a blockchain, so you can't retrieve the data from the hash, it's like, well, it's actually completely irrelevant. The one thing that you guys do need to know is that like what I've shown you so far is only part of the application. Like the app that I was building is only part of the application. Obviously, you need token software. You need the app that I created, which just takes information stored on your local computer and creates it into a Merkle root. And then you probably need something like encryption technology, PGP. And the reason why you need PGP um, is because if we take something, I'm actually going to copy this and move it somewhere else, just because I don't want to mess with my actual folder here. I'll just put it here in the OS folder because that's what I had opened up before. But if I paste this here, let's look at this. I'm going to hash this file first, right? And the reason why I want to show you the hash of this file is this is what you would put on the blockchain. Now the problem is, if I even actually I'll try and show you guys this in real time. If you open up this file after you've hashed it to the blockchain and make any sort of change to it, notice how all I did was erase something. Saying I'm not signed in. Just a second. Whoops. Anyways, it said it automatically saved. Let me check this real quick. Let me see if this hash comes out the same. Look at that. Same fucking document. I deleted one letter and then I added that same letter back and it changes the hash. Why? Because there's more information that is getting saved to the file when you save it. Okay, so if you ever even basically open the same file that you've hashed to a blockchain, it changes the hash, okay? Because again, like we went in there, we deleted a letter, then we added that letter back and we saved it, and the hash completely changes. So how do you stop this? Okay, so I'm going to erase the first hash because this hash is meaningless because now we don't have that file anymore. The way you stop this is you use encryption, okay? So if I encrypt this, I'm not encrypting it for others, I'm just going to encrypt it for me. It's going to make me put in my password here. Hopefully I typed that in right. And I did. I finish. Now watch this. Every time, I'm going to go ahead and just delete this. Yes, 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 yes. I don't really know what that even means. I haven't been using Windows terribly often recently, so I don't have all the little quirks figured out on it yet. But when I open this up, and again, it didn't ask me for my password there because I just input my password. If I take this, or I want to get this same hash, right? And boom, I have that same hash. Now, if I want to change this file for myself, let's say I want to update it, that's fine. I can work on this file no matter what, because once you decrypt a file, you still have the encrypted version. So, again, if I need to, I decrypt the, or I decrypt the file. I don't know why I got out of this. It was kind of stupid of me. But, once again, 85C1E6. Same thing, okay? So what you're going to need to, like, there's a lot of these things that need to be added on to make this entire application work, but you have to remember, everything that you put on the blockchain is stored locally, and you're going to encrypt it, and again, you don't encrypt it because, like, oh, this is super secret information you don't want people to see, because again, if you're hashing it onto the blockchain and putting it onto a HiveMind app, you're doing it specifically because you want other people to work on it. But you're encrypting it so that you will always have a copy of the file that has the hash that you put on the blockchain, okay? Like you have to do something like this. Maybe encrypting it with PGP is not the best way to do it, but you have to do something, okay? And so then you'll have all these files that you're working on, and then you'll have a couple encrypted files, which are the files that you've already posted to the blockchain, okay? And that's the way that you do it. So when people say, like, how do you retrieve a file? Well, the files are never put on the blockchain because they're always stored by the people who are working on them. Like, let's say if I post this onto a HiveMind app and I just say, hey, look, I want somebody to I want you to turn this into something like a couple pages in a book that talks about technology throughout, the galaxy. I've got all these different shipyards and the types of ships that they create. Like, there's a lot of information here. Um, when I send it to them, if they end up, or, well, one, when I send them the file, it'll come from this encrypted thing here, whether it's the host site that stores an encrypted version of the file or whatever. It comes from, or they get the original file, but when that person is working on this, like they have the file. They don't need to retrieve this from the blockchain because they have it. Either they got it directly from me or they got it directly from the site that is hosting my work. Okay, and then once they're working on it, they already have the file, so why would they ever need to retrieve it from the blockchain? The only thing that they need is once they get the file, they need to be like, okay, is this the actual legit file that I'm supposed to be getting, that I'm contractually, you know, not or that I'm contractually guaranteed to have, or did these guys try to screw me over? That's the only time that they need to look on the blockchain. So again, this is what I've been saying for the longest time. You don't hash things on the blockchain because you want to retrieve them from the blockchain. You hash them on the blockchain so you can prove their integrity. That way, when someone receives it, and again, because you never store files on chain, it's just stupid and inefficient. But once you receive it, you can check and you can say, oh, is this a legit file? Yes, it is. Okay, now I can work on it. And then once you work on it from there, if you want to put on, or if you want to hash the new file to the blockchain, you can. And again, the way a HiveMind app works is if I give this file to some graphic artist and they want to create something with it, I can choose whether or not I accept their work. But if I don't accept their work, that doesn't mean that they can't use their work. Okay, so like let's say if they create a bunch of artwork for spaceships, let's say they're just a graphic artist and they look at my artwork and they're like, your artwork sucks, which it sort of does because I just Googled spaceships and threw in shit that looked pretty similar to what I wanted it to be. But if they look at or if they create new artwork and they create it, and maybe for some reason, like I have a certain style of artwork on other stuff that I've already put on the HiveMind app, maybe I just don't want to use their stuff, but it's still pretty good work. They don't have to just be like, oh, that was a bunch of wasted work on my part. They can still sell this artwork to other people, because how many other people do you think that are out there that create sci-fi stories that need artwork for their stories? This actually is obviously an old file because this biosafe bubble does not work. if you look at this, the science behind this is just stupid. Sometimes when I create pseudoscience stuff, like I go through, create a bunch of shit in a day, and it just doesn't make sense. But if you actually, oh shit, if you go here, I have a second spacecraft page that doesn't have a biospace bubble, but that's not important. But again, the whole point here is just that you don't ever retrieve anything from on the blockchain. Okay, all files are stored off the blockchain. You just use the blockchain to verify that the files that are stored are the legit files. Okay, that's all you use it for. Um, yeah, I guess that's all I got to say. Um, So I hope you guys understand that. Like the whole point is that you store the files on your own local computer, and then you're going to combine all these other things. So this is the other thing. Like a lot of people ask why I'm so angry about this application and why I'm so angry at developers for it. Is because I already have all the tools to do this shit. And I've had the tools for a long time, except for the little bit that I coded of making Merkle trees. Like maybe you can download an app that makes Merkle trees out of files for you, but I couldn't find one. Um, but all the other applications or all the other programs that you need, they already exist. You just combine them. You need something like PGP. You need something like the tokenized token software. Then you need some sort of hosting file like YouTube or Microsoft's OneDrive. It's all right there. Okay, but again, you never retrieve files from your hash. Your hash is just to validate the integrity. That's the whole point. That's all you need it for. Anyways, coming up here on the weekend, I'll have some video tutorials on how to code. I just wanted to explain to you guys, you never retrieve files from the blockchain, ever.